Hey y'all, welcome back to Nini's Texas Kitchen. Today we're going to make old-fashioned pound cake with a glaze on it. So the ingredients that you're going to need for this recipe are 3 sticks of real butter, salted. You need 3 cups of cake flour, sifted. You need 3 cups of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and 1 cup of heavy cream. That's for the cake. When we get to the glaze, I'll tell you what you need then. So I've got my oven preheating to 325 degrees while I put all this together. So you let your butter sticks sit out until they get a little soft. You don't want them melted soft, but you just want them softer than like coming out of the cold fridge. So they'll cream up good. And then just open your butter sticks and put them in a large bowl. So you're going to need a mixer. I'm just going to do this by hand. You could use a stand mixer if you want to, but I'm just going to do it with my hand mixer. And you add these. Oh, and you're also going to need 6 eggs. So that's why I got 6 eggs in there. I forgot to tell you about that part. Alright, so we need our butter. And we're going to mix our butter and sugar together until it's creamy. And then we'll start adding our eggs one at a time and creaming those between each addition of each egg. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is take my butter and start kind of smashing it down and creaming it up good. And then I'll add my other sugar to it and make a sugar butter mixture. You want to cream it real good until your butter starts to be creamy and not like a stick anymore. See how it all is all creamy and all? Okay, so now I'll add my sugar and mix that together. 3 cups, 3 sticks of butter, 3 cups of sugar. Start out a little bit slow on your beating your sugar in here, because if you don't, you might fling sugar out everywhere. So let it start getting mixed together, and then you can turn up your speed a little bit. Just cream it together good. It's going to kind of be a little creamy and a little bit sugary. It's not going to be just like straight custard looking or something like that. Until you start adding your eggs in. Alright. So now I've got my butter and my sugar mixed together. So now I'm going to add my eggs one at a time and beat after each one. So there goes the first one. Make me a neat little stack of stuff over there to go in the trash. There's our oven, it's ready when we're ready. Doesn't take long to put this all together. There's my first egg. Now I gotta put the second one. Like I said, you're gonna do 6 eggs in this. It's a pound cake. Back in the old days, they used to put a pound of everything, and I don't think I'm putting quite a pound, but I don't know, I didn't weigh it. But that's why they called it a pound cake. Not because it makes you gain pounds, although it does. That's not the reason for the name. They call it pound cake because they used to add a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, a pound of butter, and a pound of worth of eggs and cream or milk. You hear a daddy rooster out there, he's crowing at us. Alright. You gotta do this after each one. And then we'll add in our heavy cream, and then we'll add in our flour. and our vanilla goes in last. There's this. 3 more eggs. I think that the recipe wants you to add each one individually because you want to make sure it's getting mixed in there really good. And if you got a whole bunch of egg in there at once, sometimes you might not blend it up as good as you need to. I'm going to add that little glaze at the end whenever it's done cooling and everything, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. This cake is really tender and moist and sweet without the glaze. It's just not as sweet without the glaze. So I'm going to put glaze on there, but you certainly don't have to if you don't want to. Egg number 4. I mean 5. That's 5. Yes, I do know how to count. Trust me. And then we'll put the 6th one in, and then our heavy cream. Quicker. Not playing no games around here. We're trying to have cake. All right, last egg. Egg number 6. And you can see that the mixture is getting creamier and creamier with each egg addition that we do. Alright. Oh, I forgot. I'm not going to add all the cream at once. I'm going to add part of the flour, a little bit of the cream, part of the flour, a little bit of the cream, back and forth like that. So I'm going to do, I'd like to do mine in about thirds. So I do about a third of it, and then I'll mix it a little bit while I add a little bit of the heavy cream, like so. And then you can see how it's blending, and if you need a little more of the cream, you can add a little bit more of the cream to get it to blend well. I kind of like to do third, and the same thing on my cup of heavy cream. Third of a cup, third of a cup, third of a cup, with each addition of flour. Like so. And then you'll get all of it mixed together at the end. So I'm going to put just a tiny bit more of the cream in, so it'll be easier to add my next flour addition. Like this. Okay. Make sure you're getting as much of it mixed in there good as you can. Alright, we're going to add another third of our flour. Or so, maybe a little bit more than a third, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. You just want to alternate it, because that way it mixes together better. And you could use all-purpose flour in this recipe if you don't have cake flour, but you're going to get a denser, heavier texture. And anytime that you make homemade cakes from scratch and you're not using a mix, always make sure you sift your flour, no matter what kind of flour you use, because if you don't sift it, it has a heavier, denser texture, and it won't be as light and fluffy and crumbly as you want a cake to be. So it's important that you sift your flour. I did that before we started the video. I had already sifted it. With a sifter, or if you have one of those little wire strainers, you can sift it through that as long as it's real thin, little holes in your wires. Alright, last of our flour. And we'll start mixing that in while we add in the rest of our heavy cream. Once I get this all mixed in good together, that's when I'll add in the vanilla. Now, once you put your cake in the oven to bake, you're going to bake it at 325 degrees for an hour and 15 minutes, and then check it with a skewer, and if it is not done, if the skewer comes out clean, it's ready, and take it out of the oven. If it's not, you're still getting a little bit of moist stuff on your skewer, then you need to leave it up to an hour and 30 minutes. All right? Here's 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Put one in. And then you'll cool it on a wire rack for 10 minutes in the pan. And then after that 10 minutes, turn it out onto a serving dish by inverting it, turning it the other way, and taking the pan. And then let it cool completely before you glaze it. And that's all she wrote on that. Alright, so it makes a thick, creamy batter when you make this cake, and it's very yummy. And I've already prepared my pan, so I put some a thin layer of shortening in there, and then I just lightly floured and shook it all around, and then dumped it out over the trash can to get all the excess flour out. And so this is just a 10-inch fluted tube pan, and you'll just take your batter, and I like to just slowly put it in there, and then I'll turn my pan and do the same thing on the other side, because it's pretty heavy. Flip it again, do the same thing. Like so. And then just keep doing that. And when you get it all in there, then you can use one of these rubber spatulas or whatever to smooth it out and make it all even. We need a little bit more on this other side. Trying to get it as even as possible in there, like so. Alright, that's good enough. Okay, so I'll just take it and kind of gently spread it around in here, make it smooth. And you could probably half this recipe if you just wanted to do it in like one of those little loaf pans or whatever. But I like to make a bigger one in case my parents want some, and they usually do. My dad likes cakes that aren't like overly rich, and it is a really good cake. Okay. Alright, so that's all you gotta do for that part. So now my oven is done preheating, and we're gonna stick it in there in the middle rack. So here's my middle rack. We're gonna stick it in and turn on our timer. I'm doing 75 minutes, which is an hour and 15 minutes. So whenever it's done, we'll come back and show you the next step for the glaze. All right, y'all, we're back, and our cake is done. And as you can see, it turned out real pretty, nice and golden brown. And it took an hour and 25 minutes in my oven. But like I said, you guys need to check and see if you need to do an hour and 15 or an hour and 30 minutes. It just depends on your oven, like how hot it cooks. but mine took about 1 hour and 25 minutes and it came out perfect. It's real pretty. So now I'm gonna make the glaze. I let it cool on the wire rack for 10 minutes and then I turned it out onto my serving plate, and I've been letting it cool here for probably about 20-30 minutes just to make sure it was cool enough to glaze. And now I'm gonna make the glaze. So for the glaze, you need 2 cups of powdered sugar. You need 2 tablespoons of heavy cream, and you need 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of melted butter and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my butter. And like so. I'm gonna go ahead and add my cream. And like so. And then I'm gonna mix this together. Slow speed at first so you don't fling powdered sugar out everywhere. And it just mixes together. And you could always add a little bit more of the cream if you need to, which I may do, but I'm gonna wait and see what the consistency of it is after I add my teaspoon of vanilla. If I need more cream, I'll add it, because you want it to be not too thin and not too thick for a glaze. But vanilla is a liquid, so let's see what it looks like now when we mix that in with it. All right, I'm gonna add just a little bit more of the heavy cream to it, just because I want it a little bit thinner of a consistency. That's the cool thing about icings, is you can adjust their consistency by just adding more milk or cream to it. So we're gonna add that in. It looks like it's gonna be pretty good. And I'm gonna add just a touch more because I want it to kind of drip down the sides. So altogether, I've probably added another tablespoon, so 3 tablespoons instead of 2. Just mix it all in really good. And that'll be good enough. How it's a little bit thin, but it's not too thin. Tastes good. Now we'll go ahead and put it over the top of our pound cake. So I'm just going to use a spoon, and I'm going to take some and I'm going to put it around on the top like so, and I'll let it drip off the cake as it sits there and gravity pulls it down. And this isn't one of those cakes, like, you're not decorating it for, you know, a baking show or something. You're just wanting some glaze on your cake. Some icing glaze. I'm just going to make sure I spread it everywhere. Any mess you make, you can just wipe it off with a damp paper towel or a cloth. pretty good. Makes a really big cake. Off there. All right, guys, let's give it a try. Cut into it. I'm just doing a thin piece. Look at that. Nice and moist on the middle. All right. Let's try it and see what we think. That's really good. It's perfect. If you like my video, make an old-fashioned pound cake with heavy cream glaze. Please like my video, share it to others, subscribe to my channel, and please don't forget to go back and watch my other videos. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll see y'all next time in Nini's Texas Kitchen.